What if I told you I didn't even like Mira Nair's Mississippi Masala? That's right, the first time I watched this film, I was left feeling unsatisfied and bored. You're probably pretty confused as to why I'm choosing to do an entire video essay over this film. Much to your surprise, after rewatching the film and doing a bunch of boring research, I actually developed a new interpretation of the film. In Western society, women and female presenting individuals are often criticized and belittled for active sexual expression. This criticism is heightened in Indian culture, and thus, Mira Nair's Mississippi Masala is a direct attack against this gender bias. Moving into the far more analytical part of my video essay, I will now be discussing Mira Nair's unconventional representation of sexual expression in Indian culture.
Mira Nair's 1991 film, entitled Mississippi Masala, focuses on the relocation of one Indian family from Uganda to, you guessed it, Mississippi. The film explores interracial romances between African Americans and Indian Americans. Mina, the daughter of our relocated family, falls for Demetrius, and the two must overcome the protestations from Mina's family. Much of the film works to highlight the racial discrimination faced by the young couple, and the two lovebirds are forced to choose between family and love. In order to give you a broader understanding of both the film itself and my argument, we're now going to delve into the background of our director, Mira Nair. Nair was born in India and later moved to the United States in order to continue her education. Nair is often referred to as a double hyphenated director because of her association with both India and the U.S. Nair first began as an actress and only later moved into the realm of directing. In regards to Mississippi Masala, this was Nair's second film and received a flood of raving reviews. As a woman, Nair felt it was essential to highlight issues within the broad category known as intersectional feminism. In a direct quote from Mira Nair herself, she claims, "I want to question what the outside is and who defines it. I often find that those who are considered to be on the outside extremely inspiring. They are the people who see through the double standards." This quote from Nair perfectly encapsulates the role Mississippi Masala plays in the battle for equal representation of sexually liberated Indian women. Now that you have a greater understanding of the film and director, I'm now going to explore the bulk of my argument. As I previously discussed, in Mississippi Masala, our main protagonist, Mina, is condemned for being a sexually liberated young woman. Nair highlights the familial backlash often faced by Indian women who are simply embracing their femininity and alludes to the forms of sexual expression that are consistently looked down upon within Indian culture. Alongside this, Nair also heavily focuses on biracial romance and the biases associated with it. Benita Mehta, author of Emigrants Twice Displaced, Race, Color, and Identity in Mira Nair's Mississippi Masala, examines the different forms of bias found within the film and was pivotal in the development of my argument. From the start of the film, we are introduced to the racial bias formed by Indian Americans against another minority, African Americans.
Holy cow! You up in a dairy? I was just trying to be friendly.
As you saw from the previous scene, there was a slow pan from an Indian woman counting change to an African American teenager loading groceries. Mehta claims this suggests the class differences between a typical middle-class Indian immigrant who has attained material success in the United States and a black teenager who is relegated to menial labor. It's unlikely you caught this minor allusion to race prejudice, but I feel it's a perfect segue into the rest of the film's uncomfortable themes. Later in the film, as the relationship between Mina and Demetrius continues to flourish, we see she is shamed and humiliated for participating in sexual acts with Demetrius by her relatives, as you can see in this next clip.
I've never asked you for anything. Never expected anything. I'm 24 years old, and I'm still here. Stuck here. Think I'm happy? I love him. That's not a crime, is it?
You call this love? When all you've done is bring such shame on our heads?
I didn't do anything. They barged in.
Don't answer back. Have the decency at least to be sorry.
I am sorry about this.
As said by Bonita Mehta, this act of sexual liberation by Mina ends up causing a multitude of problems due to the restrictive background and the repression of female sexuality within Indian society. Mehta continues on the same train of thought and later explains that the sexual expression of Mina goes against the most basic aspects of Indian culture. As said by Mehta, Indian culture treats sex as a taboo and does not educate men or women, especially women, in sexual matters. It's also important to discuss the frequency of arranged marriages found in Indian culture, which once again works to explain the family's extreme discomfort regarding sexual acts of any kind. A scene that perfectly depicts both racial and gender prejudice is as follows.
Hold on. All right, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Mina? Who do you think you're fooling? No! Over here, huh? I'm warning you. You listen, you leave off women alone.
Nadia Argawal, the author of On Mississippi Masala and the Politics of Desire, goes into a deeper explanation of the previous scene. Prior to going into my discussion of this particular scene, I wanted to call attention to Argawal's description of the film itself. The film is about sex, sensuality, girlhood, and the way the racial politics of men are staked out on women's bodies. Argawal's interpretation of the film highlights the way that sexuality is often denied to South Asian women while also still being expected by their husbands due to traditional marriage scripts found within Indian culture and society. Argawal goes on to explain that sex that verges into the taboo, such as interracial, queer, self-pleasure, only exists in safe places, essentially claiming that romantic relations that don't adhere to the standards set by Indian culture are often hidden from the public eye and are only to be explored in the safety of one's privacy. Now to finally discuss the notorious fight scene. We see Mina's relatives abruptly decimate the soft, subtle intimacy between Mina and Demetrius. We see one of her relatives immediately attack Demetrius and scream, "You leave our women alone." This line calls attention to the racial hypocrisy often found within South Asian culture. As said by Argawal herself, that unconvincing harmony exists in the film as Mina's relatives declaim on interracial solidarity but attack Demetrius in his bed. The rage these men felt seeing Mina with Demetrius when they invoked the plural rather than the singular to address what they saw sounds so much like what we see in General Idi Amin. In case you need a refresher, General Amin was Uganda's president from 1971 to 1979, and frequently shared his racist archetypes regarding South Asians despite the large South Asian population found in Uganda during this time period. Aforementioned earlier, many of Mira Nair's films feature Indian women acting in ways that are often seen as untraditional or even vulgar. Subhashini Moodley, the author of the research article Post-Colonial Feminism Speaking Through an Accented Cinema, The Construction of Indian Women in the Films of Mira Nair and Deepa Mehta, discusses the backlash faced by Nair and another famous Indian female director. In regards to Nair, Moodley claims, Nair and Mehta's female characters are constructed as Indian women with agency and not simply as ideological constructs of nationalism. Moodley's argument asserts the idea that Mina, and South Asian women like Mina, possess the capacity to take purposeful action and pursue goals of their own, free from the threat of violence or retribution. My personal addition to this argument is why must there be such a bold line drawn between traditional women and women with agency? Why is there a distinction, and more often than not, a sense of discrimination against women who are freely sexually liberated? Men of any race are praised for their endless sexual endeavors, but a woman is shamed for simply expressing her femininity and sexuality. Now to discuss the most sensual scene of the film, which is the infamous phone call scene. This scene is filled with high levels of sexual tension and heat that are often not associated with South Asian women or interracial couples in general. Mitchell Beaupre, author and interviewer of the transcript Mira Nair on Mississippi Masala's enduring impact, body language, and that phone call scene, was able to discuss Nair's intention with this particular scene, and we get a little insight into the making of the scene as well. Before I discuss Beaupre, here's the phone call scene in all its glory.
You know what this is?
Of course.
I was just thinking about you. Thought I'd give you a call. Kind of wishing you were here with me.
I was thinking the same. Wanting to be with you.
What you got on? You in your pajamas?
t-shirt.
Yeah, me too. Guess we got a lot in common now. So, you thought about what I said? As far as going with me to Biloxi?
You know, I'm gonna try.
Yeah?
Demetrius,
Yeah.
can I ask you something?
Anything, baby.
Are you seeing me to make Alicia?
Nina, phone the police. Underage.
I gotta go.
It's clear that even through the physical barrier of distance placed between Mina and Demetrius, their attraction and attachment to one another is able to defy the distance through subtle grazes of the skin and soft conversation. In her interview with Mitchell Beaupre, Nair explains the extensiveness of freedom she had in creating this film and this scene in particular. Nair claims, "I didn't have hundreds of notes and hundreds of men in suits killing me. It's always like that, so you tighten your belt and you have a lesser budget, but you have freedom." She also goes on to praise both Denzel and Sarita, saying, "In the movie business, and shooting her and shooting him, they're revealing to their desire to my camera while expressing their desire for each other. It's sort of the most revealing piece of everything, isn't it? And they really got it. What can I say, Mitchell? They really understood my own desire. They performed that heat so beautifully." This phone call scene is a perfect representation of the unseen side of South Asian women and interracial couples as a whole. Nair's dedication to this film as both a director, an Indian-American woman herself, and a proclaimed feminist shines brightly throughout the entirety of Mississippi Masala.
I hope it's clear from both my extensive research and passion for women's equality that you can tell that my opinion of Mississippi Masala has drastically changed from my first viewing of the film. Mira Nair is a wonderful director and is really a true star in the fight against both racial and gender discrimination. Mississippi Masala remains as one of the best, as well as one of the only, accurate depictions of sexual expression in South Asian women.